If you made a list of all the things that would make you happy, what would you write? Where would your list take you? What challenges would you seek?
We all have two choices in life: to walk the path of comfort or strive for the things that make us feel alive. Yoo!
Ultimately, would the pursuit of your list make you happy? Would your list inspire a journey that would change you?
Hello, buddy. All right.
When this journey first started, it was all about Seb, and now it's evolved into something so much bigger.
You did it!
Consider this one simple question. What's on your list?
Great story for this challenging time that we're in, when a lot of us have asked the same questions that man, Australian Sebastian Terry, did almost a decade and a half ago. Questions like, what do I value? What's important? What makes me happy? Well, his self-reflection at the age of 24 has led to the 100 Things movement and impacted many lives around the world. And we're very pleased that Sebastian joins us now from California. Good morning.
Hi, how are you? Thanks for having me.
I'm great. I love your T-shirt. You're right there. 100 Things. I want to talk about the origin of this. We had a beautiful feature that aired earlier in the morning, but for those that didn't see it, let's just go back for a moment. You had lost a very close friend back in 2006, and you started contemplating your own life. How did that lead to the list of 100 things?
Yeah, well, a friend of mine, Chris, had passed away, and I remember just thinking about his life, and I remember thinking specifically, if he could do it again, if he had his 24 years back, would he change anything? And I don't think he would have changed anything. And I looked at my life at the same moment, and I thought, well, if today was my last, would I be happy? And I realized that I wouldn't. So I just made a list of things that I thought would make me smile more, and that was it. I gave myself permission to drop everything in my life to pursue this weird and wonderful list, which at first was all about me. It was a little self-indulgent, from skydiving naked and delivering a stranger's baby and walking across the country and all those crazy things. And then it started to resonate accidentally with a big global audience, and people started asking me for help. And I just began naturally helping people. And so, fast forward to now, and I connect strangers around the world to engage in acts of kindness. And it's been a beautiful 10-year journey so far. And it's become really special during times of Corona, actually, because there are so many people out there in isolation who, they have time on their hands to think about themselves and to think about how we can connect. And it's a perfect time to create a list, I should obviously say. And it's also a perfect time to be kind. And we've been throwing virtual birthday parties around the world. We celebrated a 99th birthday party of a complete stranger called Louise the other day. And 100 people dialed in to just say happy birthday. So, it extends past the list into this altruistic movement.
I love it. One of the items on your list was to help a stranger. That was pretty early on in your list. And you actually met a man named Mark. He had suffered from Lyme disease. It impacted his central nervous system. And what he wanted to do was complete a half marathon. How did that experience of helping him impact you?
Oh, more so than any other item on my list, it profoundly changed my thoughts and trajectory in life. Mark, as you say, had Lyme disease, and he saw me on TV in Australia, actually, and he asked me to shave his head. It was number one on his list. And as I got to meet him and realize that he went from being able-bodied into being a quadriplegic, he can't even speak. His carer told me that he wanted to, complete a half marathon. And I looked at him and I said, well, I'm quite slow on the uptake, most things in life. And I said, well, how can I help you? And he said, he mumbled something, and because he has a slur, and it was the only two words I understood him say. And he said, push me. And that was it. I just knew I wanted to do that. So I pushed Mark, and it was the most unbelievable experience of my life. Mark, the ripple effect, of course, of doing things that are on your list is that it helps other people. And Mark has now ticked off, I think, like 50, 60 things from his own list. He's ridden nude in a bike race. He's got a tattoo on his limbs that don't move. It's marvelous. And as for me, I now get approached by people all over the world who want help in, creating lists, need help doing bits and pieces. And so I travel around helping who I can. And like I say, I engage a lot of people now, which is so lovely, to matchmake acts of kindness. And, I guess I do it in organizations through speaking and all that sort of stuff. So it's got no real boundaries. I kind of feel like everyone wants to be happy. at the end of the day, right? We just want to feel good. And I think giving yourself permission to consider who you are and reflecting on your past, understanding your values, and then coming up with a meaningful, I mean, it would be remiss of me not to ask you, what's on your list?
I mean, I think one of the things that resonated with me, wow, what is on my list? Oh, I know what I want to do. I saw it actually on the internet. I want to do want to bake one of those focaccia breads, and then they look like gardens. Yeah, that's like on my list this week. I mean, I have all sorts of things on my list. But, one of the things that really resonated with me in listening to your story, and we're all, this is a time of such fear, right? And we're all like sitting inside and we're scared to do things. And that's a way, frankly, that sometimes we live our lives. You talk about how important it is to push yourself out of your comfort zone. Why is that so critical?
Well, I think it's a beautiful space to be, that when you feel nervous, when your palms or your hands get clammy, you don't know what's around the corner. And typically as people, we default away from that for some reason. But I think when you get there, you actually realize how capable we are. I mean, we are so capable, typically, that we underestimate ourselves. And when you tease the boundaries of your comfort zone, you find out that you can actually do a lot. You grow. And I think retrospectively, I mean, it's kind of odd that, I'm looking at footage as we speak of me skydiving and all these things, but I mean, or this one's a bit silly. I got shot in Colombia.
Yeah, I mean, you on your list was I want to get shot, which I had to wonder a little bit about you. But there you go. Look, it was safely done.
Yeah, it was. I mean, again, that came from a time, probably 8 years ago, and I actually hitchhiked across this wonderful country of yours, America, and in every car was a gun, and I'd never seen guns before. Coming from Australia, we don't really have them, and I remember thinking I was sort of struck with fear at one point. I looked at a gun and I just thought, I wonder what that's like, So I emailed, I Googled bulletproof clothing companies. There was a factory in Colombia, and I emailed the owner and I said, would you mind shooting me? And he said, yeah, no worries. And so I flew to Bogota and he shot me. And by the way, I wouldn't recommend that. And like I said, that was years ago. And thankfully, because of course our values change as people, right? I'm very different to how I was 10 years ago, and I'll be different again in 10 years, as you will be, as everyone else will be.
Right.
So, now it's much more about connection. But to the point of isolation, I mean, what I think is fascinating is, sure, there's a lot of unknown out there, and we can't control the environment, but we can control our response. And I do believe that our values, our constitution as people, it doesn't change. And so I think if we're able to kind of adapt and take action, the key is being able to funnel all our values into new and relevant goals that do suit the environment. So I've been playing. I mean, you're going to laugh at this. In fact, I'm sat right next to it. I've been playing cornhole with my quarantine buddy, and we've created the Corona Cup. And Todd, who I work with, he won yesterday, so we're 1-1 on the May season of the Corona Cup. And the satisfaction that I get and we get out of playing cornhole is no different to the emotional high that I would have felt climbing a mountain or completing a race of some sort. And so I think my point here is, because we're in isolation doesn't mean that we're limited in terms of our emotional capacity. It's about funneling our values into meaningful and relevant goals. So, painting the back fence with your kids, cooking a focaccia with plants growing out of it, they're all achievements, and they're all really important to have.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's made us all be more creative, finding new ways to connect. And we all know that when you can help other people, it really makes you feel so much better inside you. You help yourself by helping others. So wonderful lessons. Listen, we could talk all day.
I would love to.
I know. But we've got 100 things left to do here on the Sports Center. So I've got to say goodbye. But Sebastian, Terry, thanks so much for being such a great inspiration and providing us such positive motivation this morning.
And if there's anyone watching who's curious about creating a list or curious about helping somebody, please get in touch, because there's a wonderful community of like-minded, kind people out there, and I'd love to get to know you all.
Absolutely. Sebastian, Terry, thank you.
Thank you.